Hi, everybody. So this week, Criminali, Ollie over at Criminali, he announced that there's going to be a little bit of a reading event for the first weekend in February, which will be February 4th and 5th. So that's about a month from now. And he suggested that we do a Garbaugust 1.5. So about the 6-month mark between last Garbaugust and next Garbaugust, which is going to be a lot of fun. And I was thrilled to participate in Garbaugust 1 and am quite looking forward to participating in Garbaugust 2. And so I was looking through, trying to maybe figure out what I want to read for 1.5 just to kind of get the ball rolling. I'm probably going to read some books that I DNF'd last time, and I just bought my first Danielle Steele book, so I'm very excited about that. But today, I want to jump on the bandwagon, and I want to talk about the garbage person of the week, Susan Meachen. Now, Susan apparently was a self-published author of romance, historical romance. I think she did some paranormal sci-fi kind of stuff, and she's an absolutely shitty fucking writer, and from what I've been reading, and truly terrible person. So I will get to that in 1 second. I'm going to show you the book in question, which I decided to read this week. It is called Love to Last a Lifetime. Now, Meachen even got a little write-up in Rolling Stone this week. So it's probably more famous than she will ever be for her own anything except being a generally shitty person. So what happened was in 2020, Miss Meachen was running a group that was dedicated to her books and talking about writing and so on. And she had some friends in the community, predominantly I guess the romance community. Now, I wasn't connected with this person because I'm not a romance person, not generally a reader, not generally a writer. And the book in question, Love to Last a Lifetime, is horrible. It's terribly written. It has absolutely... the plot is stupid, cliche riddled. The characters are flat. The entire time I was reading it, I was hearing it in that voice. You know that voice, the Microsoft text to voice sound? That's what it sounded like. The woman does not even end her sentences with periods. That's what a bad writer she is. It's a story about a rich guy you can't really care about. His name's Ethan. He likes a girl that's a friend of a friend. They start going out. They have sex. He asks her to marry him. And she announces that she's pregnant, and then he dies in a horrible car wreck, and she inherits the house, and that's it. And that, literally, my telling of the story is probably more interesting than the story itself. Awful book. I mean, if I, and normally I don't review books if I don't like them. If they're less than a three stars, I don't even bother, because I was always taught, if you can't say something nice about something, don't say anything at all. But this story is way more interesting than the book it was trying to promote, okay? So Susan was running this group, and there apparently was a secondary group that had been set up just to try and bully and insult female writers, particularly romance writers. And Susan announced that she wanted to take a break from writing, which, was perfectly valid. I mean, social media can be a shit heap at the best of times. And then there was an announcement in the group that she had unalived herself. She had taken her own life. And this was quite devastating for her friends, for her, for her writing colleagues. And there have been others in the writing community who have done that, unfortunately, and it's felt. Jay Faulkner, who was one of my co-admins on the Call for Submissions group on Facebook, did that last week, and it was a tragedy. It was just an awful thing to have to experience as a person's friend, even if you don't even know the person very well, it's wrong. I mean, so after this was announced, somebody purporting to be her daughter started making posts in the group and, pointing fingers. What you do, right? 5 stages of grief. One of them's anger, saying that it was the writing community's fault and she missed her mother, and at the same time promoting this terrible book, Love to Last a Lifetime, which was Susan's last book, which is fucking terrible. So, and then another person took over. Sorry, my light just burned out. Another person took over the group and started, just kind of running things from an administration point of view. It all kind of blew over, but I believe there was a GoFundMe set up for Susan's funeral and any remaining expenses and so on. So this week, guess who announces that she never did unalive herself? The whole thing was a hoax. This was announced on Facebook. I'll try to put a link to the doobly-doo and to the Rolling Stone article from Samantha A. Cole. She announced she got a message from a Rhonda Butterbaugh asking if she remembered Susan, and within the hour, horrified, stunned, livid, felt like she'd been kicked in the gut and the chest at the same time, still sick to her stomach. In September, Susan's daughter signed into her mother's profile, announced that Susan had taken her own life, devastated for friends, fellow authors, readers. Allegedly, she'd been bullied in the book world to the point of suicide. I shouldn't say that word. Well, I mean, I'm not monetized anyway, so YouTube doesn't really care. What followed was rants about how horrid the book world had been to Susan. Family wanted nothing to do with the book world from that point on, but they wanted to honor her mother's memory by publishing the last book she wrote, which they did, and everybody shared the release. We grieve for the loss of the woman we considered a friend. I personally, this being Samantha Cole, was harassed by another author who loves to create drama, claiming I was one of the authors who bullied Susan and drove her to unalive herself. I was heartbroken when I realized it had been a few months since I chatted with Susan in PMs and wished I'd reached out sooner. Maybe it would have made a difference for her to know there were people who supported her. Last night a post was made in Susan's old reader group, The Ward from Susan's profile, and I quote, now, here's where this is a garbage person. I debated on how to do this a million times, and I'm not sure if it's right or not. There's going to be tons of questions and a lot of people leaving the group. Really? That's what you're worried about? Really? But my family did what they thought was best for me, and I can't fault them for it. I almost died again at my own hand. Okay, I'm sorry, but Girl Who Cried Wolf, people aren't going to be quite as accommodating the second time. And they had to go through all that hell again. Returning to the war doesn't mean much, but I am in a good place now, and I am hoping to write again. Let the fun begin. Apparently, she's not unalived. T.N. Steele, who was the profile that took over, was a profile she made a month after her alleged unaliving. What follows are screenshots from the group, her profile, in the chat that Samantha Cole just had with the dead person. And Samantha signs off with, excuse me, while I now go get shit-faced in memory of coworkers and friends who I know really did. Okay. Wow. I mean, there's just so much to unpack, and I wasn't connected with this person, so it doesn't really affect me. I'm just gobsmacked at what a horrible, horrible, shitty thing that this person did, and what a horrible, shitty book she fucking wrote. I mean, if you're gonna pretend to unalive yourself, at least write a good book. Jeez. Okay. Now, in the interest of being fair and balanced and giving somebody possibly the benefit of the doubt, one of my Facebook connections made a suggestion, which I thought was interesting, that technically, she did commit the unaliving, but was unable to complete the unaliving, because apparently she has been in care. So, I mean, there is some mental health. Clearly, there's a mental health issue here. But what he suggested was that she might have been suffering from some abuse at the hands of her daughter. This daughter who, I don't want to give anybody the benefit of the doubt because this is just an awful situation. But my friend suggests that it follows his experiences with those who try but do not complete the act. And her responses in this particular thread match somebody who has experienced a certain type of abuse from somebody that might drive them to it. So that's a slightly less aggressive stance than I've taken on it. So, I mean, if there is something truly horrible going on with Susan, I apologize for being so judgmental. This really is not my circus or my monkeys, but I just think this was an awful way to try and sell a book, and especially a truly terrible, terrible book. But the world is full of monsters, and not the kind that we like to read about over here on Allegory's Horror Stories channel. And it never ceases to amaze me how real life is so much stranger than fiction. Hope you're reading lots of horror. Have a great day.